Welcome to the Fish Tank. I am your host, Fish. Stay with me for the next couple of weeks while I try to get caught up. I am a little bit behind on this podcast. This is my first attempt. I got a full-time job. I got a family. I have little time to do this, but I'm going to do my best. So again, stick with me. We'll get caught up hopefully by week 3 or week 4 where everything will be relevant. Until that time, let's kick off the show.
Up and down through the blood and the sweat. Guarantee you can know I'm a threat. Up and down through the blood and the sweat. And I ain't close to being done yet, I'm going all in. Yeah, I'm going all in. And I ain't close to being done yet, I'm going all in.
Yes, we are all in here at the Fish Tank. Thank you for joining me. I am your host, Fish. Again, I am going to try and get caught up as quick as possible to get caught up to the most recent weeks. So this one is going to be a little bit behind depending on when you see it. So let's kick the show off. First thing, let's go over the top fantasy football players for week 1. First on our list, we got Lamar Jackson, who put up 128 points for a quarterback. That goes with 16 rushing attempts, 122 rushing yards, 26 completions, 273 passing yards, and 1 touchdown. He actually had 3 more rushes than Derrick Henry in this. It's a little weird listening to the media talk about how he ran too much because he did have 16 to 13 versus rushing attempts. But you have to understand he was not at his A game, missing open receivers, mental mistakes, maybe trying to do too much, didn't feel the game was going the way he did. Second on the list is Baker Mayfield. Baker put up 100 points for number 2 best quarterback. 21 rushing yards on 3 attempts, 24 completions, 289 passing yards, and 4 passing touchdowns. I want to remind everybody this is against a Washington team without Ron Rivera. Chase Young had recently left the last year or so. So this is not the same defensive team that we've seen before. So take that how you will. They did score on 7 of 8 drives, and Baker did have an 80% completion rate, so we'll see how that goes going forward. But congrats to Baker Mayfield for being number 2 in the league this week. Next on the list, we go to the running back, Saquon Barkley. 73 total points, 159 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown, 30 carries, 3 receiving receptions for 19 receiving yards. New team, new fire, man. Look, I watched the HBO special as well, Hard Knocks with the Giants, and man, I got to tell you, the owner has got to be fuming on this one. Anyway, 30 carries for this man. He was an absolute tank. The only thing that I would be concerned with is he does have injury history, so be aware of that. 30 carries is quite a bit, and you do not want that going forward. So we'll see how they do in week 2, which it has already been out by now. So you probably know, but let's pretend we're still in week 1. Next on the list is Joe Mixon, RB1 with 78.4 points. 109 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, 24 carries, 2 receptions, 23 receiving yards, and 1 touchdown. For me, another oldie but a goodie. You got Saquon Barkley, who's a little bit older there in age, and you got Joe Mixon, who's even older in age. A little weird seeing Joe on the Houston Texans. I honestly thought he would be a Bengal for life if anybody on that team would. He's been there since the beginning, and he was a Bengal to me. Anyways, 30 carries, again, way too many for that man. At his age, even for a younger guy, the 30 carries would probably be a little high for Derrick Henry. You might want to ease up of that, and he needs the carries to get going. He was injured in week 2 on a hit drop tackle, so be aware of that for the week 3. That's a little, I guess you could say, a premonition, considering I'm not supposed to know what happened in week 2. Next on the list is going to be Cooper Kupp, 66.9 points, 2 carries, 10 rushing yards, 14 receptions, 110 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown. He was initially unlikely to play week 1. Puka ended up getting hurt during that game, and everything went to Kupp after that. I like to see it. Kupp turned into the old Kupp that we're used to. Ball hog as far as targets goes and just racking up the yards. So congrats to Kupp for picking that up. Sorry to hear about Puka, but someone's got to feed when there's extra food on the table. So Jaden Reed, 64.9 points. He is the number 2 wide receiver for week 1. 1 carry for 33 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown, 4 receptions, 138 receiving yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. He's a second-year man compared to being compared to Amon-Ra by Chris Sims. Take that for what it's worth. I respect Chris Sims. I listen to him here and there. So he's got some good takes. He knows what he's doing way fucking more than I do. Anyway, second-year man, like I said, Chris Sims compared him to Amon-Ra. 34.5 average yards per catch, and he did have a 70-yard bomb. So one thing to be aware of with Jaden Reed, he did only have 4 receptions, so he may be a boom or bust player. Hopefully that gets up there. I prefer to see him around 6 or 7 receptions a game. Doesn't have to be 10, 11, 12 like Diggs, but if he can get to 6 or 7, that should work. Next on the list, we move to our tight ends, and we are hitting up Isaiah Likely, the chief. Oh, I don't want to say killer because he almost killed us. But, man, he ran roughshod over us. Anyway, 72.5 total points for Dynasty, 9 receptions, 111 receiving yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. Honestly, to be honest, he pulled a Kelsey against the Chiefs. I don't know any way other to slice that. He turned into Kelsey and showed us what Kelsey should have been doing, but no fault on Kelsey. I'm glad we got the win, and if Kelsey needs to hold back a little bit so he can turn it on in the playoffs, albeit for a three-peat. So volume, he had the stats to boot. And honestly, we have to wonder, did the Chiefs bring out the best in Likely, or is this the new normal for Likely? I've heard a lot of good things about him, even from people in our dynasty. He was a young guy last year, obviously, and I heard some good things. So we'll see how it works in the next couple weeks. You probably already know by now, so that will come on my Week 2 podcast. Next on the list for tight ends is going to be the rookie Brock Bowers. Only 36.7 for 6 receptions, 58 receiving yards. However, don't sleep on Brock. He's still got the second best points in the league. There was a stark difference between Isaiah Likely. Ideally, you would like to see those guys like Bowers, Likely, to get the as close to the 100-yard receiving yard mark and 4 or 5 receptions. Touchdown is beautiful. That'll keep you in there all the time. So Brock Bowers, I would have liked to have seen another touchdown, but no problem in this tight end room because he was the second best producing tight end. Good volume with 6 receptions, so that was nice to see, but he does need to be targeted more in the end zone. Next on our list is going to be Moody. Jake Moody, he's our kicker. 85.5 points for the week. 2 extra points, 1 field goal of 29 yards, 1 field goal up to 39, 2 field goals 40 to 49, and 2 made field goals up to 59 yards. Not typical for a TD scoring team. Jake Moody kind of had to put not necessarily had to, but he did put a lot more up there than you would typically see from him as far as the number of field goals. 49ers are usually a scoring team, so he'll get the extra points and a field goal here and there. So I was really impressed with the 6 field goals he ended up kicking. With injuries, it could be a similar going forward. They lost CMC. I believe he is still injured to this day. He didn't play week 3, which is what we're currently in now. And he had 2 field goals over 50 yards made. Anytime you can get a kicker that can kick over 50 yards consistently, that's a good day. Chris Boswell, he's our next guy. Pittsburgh Steeler, 84.5, 1 field goal up to 29, 2 field goals 40 to 49, and 3 field goals made 50 to 59. So a total of 6 field goals, just like Jake Moody. Pittsburgh's not a TD team, so I wouldn't be shocked to see similar numbers, maybe cut down on 1 or 2 of the field goals from 50 to 59. But Pittsburgh, I do not see as a high-scoring team, so they're going to rely on on the run, running down the time and kicking field goals and keeping the other team out of their end zone. So this could be something to monitor in the next couple weeks. Next on our list is going to be Greg Russo, 77.5 total points, 6 solo tackles, 3 assisted tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and 2 quarterback hits. He had 3 sacks with sack yards. Is really godly in our league. A lot of times, not a lot of times, most of the time, a guy is not going to get 3 sacks in the league, or in a game. So when you see these, I believe Aiden Hutchinson did it as well in a week or 2. However, Greg Russo, 3 sacks. If you're going to get that in our league, it's going to push you up to insane numbers, as you can see by the 77.5. That just has to do with us trying to keep our league balanced, so offense and defense can put up godly godly numbers if they put up, you know, I don't want to say godly because I would say 5 or 6 sacks in a game would be godly. But for Dynasty, 3 sacks, 2.5 would be considered. Even with that said, 6 solo tackles are also not common for a D lineman, so that's something to look out for as well. Next on our list is going to be DeMarcus Lawrence. The old man, 4 solo tackles, 1 assisted tackle, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, and 4 quarterback hits. The 2 sacks and 3 tackles for loss are good key ones there for his points. Sacks and tackles for loss, you get the points in our league for the sacks, so however many yards they lost, as well as tackles for loss. Kind of goes in line with interception return yards. We allow that as well. When you add in the 4 quarterbacks hits, this could have actually been a bigger game, as he was near the quarterback quite frequently. So, I mean, he could have easily had another half, maybe a full sack and another tackle for loss, maybe on a running back or something trying to cut across. Either way, great fucking output by DeMarcus Lawrence. Last 2 on our list is going to be Zach Bond of the Eagles, 87.5 points, 11 solo tackles, 4 assisted tackles, 2 sacks, 1 tackle for a loss, 2 quarterback hits. Double digit solo tackles with 15 total in 1 game. That's going to push you up there significantly if you're looking for the guys that are going to put you over the top. That is a great game by Zach Bond. I don't know a whole lot about him, but I'm going to start reading up on him, see what he's all about. If he can reproduce that, even half of that at 40 points, that's a good linebacker right there to have on your team. Something to look out for. Last on our list, Eric Kendricks, 84.4, 6 solo tackles, 3 assists, 1 interception, 2 sacks, 1 tackle for loss, 2 quarterback hits, 1 pass deflected. Good Lord. Okay, so he was the only signing by the Cowboys in the offseason during the all-in fiasco, in which Jerry said they were all in, and obviously they were not. Kendrick came in. He was a solid pickup. I don't think anybody predicted he was going to be all over the field like this, because these are crazy numbers for 1 game for 1 player. Not a bad start. He's got the 2 sacks for a linebacker. That's great. That means he's attacking. He's got the pass deflection. He's got the QB hit. He's got the interception. They're using him all over the field. This might be a guy you might want to target if you get a chance. Maybe send a trade. If you can get a draft, send a draft pick and a player for him. The way Eric Kendricks is going to be utilized in this first game anyway. Now, I know they had a bad defense for the game. However, the way he was being utilized in this really needs to be monitored. So keep an eye on Eric Kendrick. That does our top fantasy players for week 1. Next, we are going to hit the surprise fantasy players for week 1. Jordan Mason, good night. What the fuck was this guy doing? 69 points on 28 carries, 147 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown, and 1 reception for 5 receiving yards. I think everybody in the world, including the 49ers, panicked when they saw CMC on the injury report to start the game. And he wasn't going to be playing. And I don't think anybody even thought for a second Jordan Mason was going to play the hold my beer card and just tear it up. But he did. Come to find out, he's 3rd year at running back for San Francisco. And the big question right now is going to be how long can he sustain it. We'll see what happens with it. But he's already eclipsed last year's totals in 2 games as a starter. So for next week, he will be putting up some more points. Again, something to look out for. Again, he's been there for 3 years. He hasn't broken into the starting lineup. I know he's had some, obviously, people ahead of him. But just keep an eye on him. Could be something that could go on for a streak, maybe 4 or 5 games while CMC's out. Then he gets relegated back. But we'll see how long he can sustain this, and I think CMC's value could be affected by this as well. The better Jordan Mason does, the more cautious they can be with CMC and hold him out until closer to the playoffs. Not that they're going to wait that long, but they're going to be very cautious with him. So CMC, people, be aware of that and adjust accordingly. Next on our list is Jaden Reed. Oh my Lanta. So 64.9 points, 1 carry, 33 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown, 4 receptions, 138 receiving yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. So let's figure this out real quick. So initially, to start the season, it was supposed to be Watson, Dobbs, and Reed. And from what I could tell based on what I was reading and what I was hearing, a lot of people were leaning towards Dobbs. on taking that. There were some detractors that were rooting for Jaden Reed, but I thought the general consensus was Dobbs. There was also the issue, or not issue, resolved issue, supposedly, of Christian Watson getting his lingering soft tissues issues resolved. He went to go see some specialist people that were able to identify which tissue specifically was causing the problem. It's one of those he wasn't, you have one weak side, one strong side, and the weak side wasn't compensating. It wasn't keeping up with the strong side, and it was causing tissue tears. Anyways, that got resolved, so that kind of bumped Christian Watson up there. Maybe he's going to be the target. Nope, it was Jaden Reed. So, like I said, we'll see what happens going forward. Jordan Love did get injured, so that's something to monitor. We'll see how the pecking order goes after that. However, Jaden Reed, keep an eye on him. Keep him if you got him, and see how this thing plays out. He's being talked about pretty highly right now, and he could be the next superstar on that team for wide receivers. Next on our list is going to be J.K. Dobbins, 59.5 points, 10 carries, 135 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown, 3 receptions for 4 receiving yards. Gus or J.K. was the question going in. They also have rookie running back that may have gotten some carries at some point, but Gus was going to be the guy. J.K. was going to be the guy that basically gave him relief. Kind of a 1-2 punch, for lack of a better term. Passing plays, I was kind of comparing it or hearing stuff compared to Thunder and Lightning. But nope, it was just J.K. That's it. J.K. Dobbins took over, and that was it. He ran roughshod. I don't know what to make of this. He does have that capability. I haven't seen it necessarily consistently. But he hit the ground running, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully that O-line can continue to open up holes, and we'll see with the next opponent how he does. Last on this surprise list is again Eric Kendrick, best player on defense so far for the Cowboys. I mean, we already went through his stats, and he wasn't seen as an all-in pick. I'll say it again. But he's playing like the best player on that defense. So let's see what happens. Maybe they'll get their stuff together. Maybe they'll get it figured out. We'll see. But either way, that takes care of the surprise good players. Now let's jump into the surprise bad players. Let's start with Mark Andrews. What the fuck were you thinking? So Mark put up 2 receptions for 14 receiving yards, arguably a top 5 tight end in the league. Age maybe catching up to the 29-year-old after an injury plague last season. However, 2 receptions for 14 yards. I don't remember there being too many concerns with him not being healthy going in, but it looks like Likely took that game and he didn't let go. I don't know what to make of that. Let's see going forward if it kind of spreads out. But if things start kind of leaning towards Likely, then we may be looking at trading Andrews high because I don't see Likely going anywhere. Next on our list is Drake London with 1 reception for 11 receiving yards. I don't know what was happening with Atlanta. They scored a lot of points. I thought it was going to be a lot better. They brought in Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins loves to throw the ball. So he was going to get points no matter what. And it just seems to me like Drake would have been the de facto. You know, make him the next Justin Jefferson. Have your faith in him. Not as talented, but, you know, you give him the volume, give him the targets, and let him go. Let's see what happens. I don't know if there's some kind of friction or something going on between Drake London and the quarterback, Kirk Cousins, so we'll keep an eye on that as it goes forward. Patrick Queen, I got this on my team. 8.4 points with 2 solo tackles. This guy was a monster last year on the Ravens. He goes to Pittsburgh. I'm thinking, okay, this guy's going to tear it up. He's working opposite or on the same side as TJ Watt, depending on how they line him up. It just seems like a match made in heaven. There's no way they're going to be able to double team both guys. And Patrick Queen just came out with a 2 solo tackle game on a projected 30-40 points, and he got 8.4. So, Queen, I don't know. He must have missed the bus because there is an imposter right now that I can tell on Pittsburgh because that is not the same Patrick Queen that we saw all last year and the year before while he was with the Ravens. So keep an eye on Patrick Queen. Again, don't get rid of him. I don't know what's going on with him. Hopefully they'll figure out how to utilize him, but they have enough going on offense to figure out. So we'll see. He'll hopefully figure it out. Nick Bosa, 1 solo tackle, 1 assisted tackle, 2 quarterback hits. This doesn't look too crazy. I just put it in there because it's kind of crazy for Nick Bosa. The guy averages 15, 16, 17 sacks a year. So he's pretty much good for at least 1 a year. The fact that he had only 1 solo tackle and 1 assist, 2 quarterback hits at least means he's getting to the quarterback. I don't know. Maybe they were double teaming him. Maybe they were blocking him out. I don't know. But he'll get it back together. It's really shocking seeing Nick Bosa on here. But again, it wasn't crazy. And honestly, by the end of the year, he'll have his 15 sacks, no problem. Kyle Hamilton, my final guy, who just completely missed the bus. 7.6 points, 1 solo tackle, 2 assisted tackles. So, I mean, Madubuike also struggled compared to his average. I think a lot of that is going to be based on the fact that they have a new defensive coordinator, potentially a new defensive scheme, new players. The DC has to figure out who he's got, so on and so forth. And I'll be honest, last year was Madubuike's breakout year. So how much can we put on that breakout year? Was it a blip? Was it, what? Either way, any way you slice it, Madubuike's got a hill, if you want to call that, to climb with the new DC, trying to figure everything out. Let's see how things work out by week 5, week 6. If he's still not producing, maybe that's something to look into. Maybe last year was a flash in the pan, but we will see. That takes care of our surprise bad players. Next, we are going to be hitting up a quick review of the Chiefs-Ravens game. Stick with me. All right, here we are on the Chiefs-Ravens game review. As you can see, I am an avid Chiefs fan by the hat. Apologize for the lighting. I'm still trying to work on that. Again, I'm just a working guy, normal dude, family, kids, full-time job, so I'm kind of in the corner of my room until I get something a little bit more permanent. Anyway, here we are, Chiefs and Ravens. So jumping into this game, I was actually loving the matchup. Coming away with it, I had a little different perspective, and I'm going to kind of hammer on the Ravens a little bit. One of the big things I keep hearing is they didn't get Derek going. They need to figure out how to use Derrick Henry. How much time do you need to get one of the best running backs in the league, who almost everybody knows what needs to be done to effectively utilize Derrick Henry? He is a 20 to 25 carry per game back, and he needs that to get going. RPO doesn't work because it takes too long for it to develop. By the time he gets the ball, he's getting hit. He needs 2 to 3 steps to get going downfield, and then he's unstoppable. He was signed March 12th. That's about 24 weeks before game 1. This is a Super Bowl caliber team. How long does it take to figure out how to use your biggest acquisition in the offseason? So that's one of my complaints right now when it comes to the Ravens. Maybe it's the coaching staff. I don't know, but they need to get that together. Way too many penalties on formations. I don't know if they were trying to be tricky. I don't know if they were just undisciplined. Maybe they were just amped up because this game always brings out the best emotions and worse in both teams. And they run the ball 32 times. They really look like the old Ravens, but they're getting criticized for not running effectively. So their average rushes per team were 23.1. Average carry was 5.8 yards. And Lamar Jackson was second last year in carries with 5.8. So I can't figure out what is so hard about how to effectively use Derrick Henry and why it's taken so long to do it. I can see the preseason stuff. Everybody's holding out with veterans and stuff in the preseason because they don't want to get hurt. So there's a lot of rumblings that weeks 1 through 3 is kind of the preseason. But you're really putting your team in a hole. You're really not expectations are not there for a Super Bowl caliber team. And I was really disappointed. I really thought they were going to come out like gangbusters and put up I thought it was going to be a shootout, really honestly. And that kind of gets me over to the Chiefs. When talking about them, it didn't take long to get Xavier Worthy working in their offense, and he was drafted later than Derrick Henry was taken. So we've got a rookie on a Super Bowl contending team that is producing week 1. You got a 10-plus year veteran on another Super Bowl contending team that they've had for 24 weeks before this game, and they still haven't figured out how to use him. Pacheco, one of the things I picked up, he's not a burner. I knew that. It was even more evident during this game. He really he can be run down, but he runs violently. He will throw himself all over the place, which is probably why he's injured now. The other thing I wanted to mention is the flow of the game, to me, seemed more on pace than the Ravens keeping it close with the Chiefs. This is what I mean by that. The Chiefs can score points quickly when they have to, and we've seen that. They could be down 21. They could be down 10. They could need a field goal with 13 seconds left, and they have the ball on the other side of the field. They're going to get it done. Teams don't run up scores like they could, and that's keeping games a lot closer. You don't want your players to get hurt. You don't want your philosophy going out should not be we're going to score 40. It should not be we're going to score 500 yards of total offense. Let's go. Doesn't matter if we win or lose. That's our goal. Teams could do that, and I think the Chiefs, if they wanted to, go out with a goal of putting up 4 touchdowns and 400 total yards every game, they would probably hit that target more often than not. And what you're going to end up with is a lot of 28, 35, whatever, 30 plus points to 7, 10, 14. Most teams cannot keep up with the Chiefs when they're scoring. And if they wanted to go down and just score every time, they're going to score more often than not. What dictates the game to me is the flow of the game. As soon as the Chiefs took the lead, the Chiefs controlled it, and they did not give up the lead once they got it. Outside of Kelsey, you could even make an argument the Chiefs didn't even have their wide receiver 1 in Marquise Brown, and they still beat a Super Bowl favorite. So imagine what would have happened with a healthy wide receiving crew on both sides. The way it's looking, the Chiefs' quest for 3 looks a little bit more and more concrete. Not that there was really any question before. It wasn't whether the Chiefs were going to get to the Super Bowl and win 3. It was if somebody could stop them. So that is one unique perspective that I hear a lot. It's not, oh, we think this team could go, this team could go, this team could go. Right now, it's what team do you think is going to stop the Chiefs from getting to their next Super Bowl? And that's kind of what you're looking at. Watch out for the Bengals, because I'm starting to believe they are kind of built to beat the Chiefs. So with that said, the game flow, in my opinion, is what kept this game close. The Ravens, Lamar did everything he can. God bless that man. Sometimes he puts way too much into his own hands. Sometimes he's Superman. You know, it's hard to tell Superman not to be Superman and let him do what he needs to do, but he needs to tail it back. He had some missed throws. He had some, I don't want to say some panic throws, but there were some throws. Maybe they were too wide open, one of those type of things. But I don't think this game was close because the Ravens kept it close. I think this game was close because the Chiefs on their sheet, as soon as they took the lead, the plays change. You're all of a sudden with the lead, you want to run down the time. You're not trying to score on every single play, bombs away, score as fast as you can, as many points as you can, which the Chiefs are very capable of doing. And one final thought, the Chiefs honestly right now remind me of a comet. So it's one of those we just recently saw when scientists tried to divert a comet, and what did? They set nuclear weapons out there, bombs, whatever it was. hit the side of the comet, and from my understanding, they did actually knock it off course. That's kind of the way I see the Chiefs. They are this giant comet rocketing towards the Super Bowl. You're not going to stop it. The only thing you can try to do is knock it off course. Take a game here and there. Use use the flow of the game against them, and when they have the lead and they're taking their time and they're running down the clock, that gives you opportunities to formulate and figure out how to move the ball on the next play. They're going to do it. They're notorious for doing it. Andy Reid's not stupid. He's not going to put his people at risk by just running up the score. This isn't college. But that's the way I see them. They're a comet. Best thing you can do is throw every nuclear weapon you have at it, try to knock it off course, and maybe you get it just enough where they miss the Super Bowl, maybe by a late second field goal or whatever it is. But that's really the only thing that I can see at this point that's going to stop a Chiefs team that beat a heavy Super Bowl favorite outside of the Chiefs to make it to the Super Bowl. And it really didn't look like they were really either team at their A game, but it really looked like the Chiefs let off the pedal as soon as they took a decent lead and started working the clock. So that concludes my Chiefs-Ravens review. Up next, we've got key injuries for Week 1. First big injury of Week 1 I want to talk about is one to Kenneth Walker. He is anticipated with a Week 4 return and may be cautious and stretch it to 6 or 7. So keep an eye on Kenneth Walker as the weeks go on. Again, this is a Week 1 that I am doing late, so I don't want to give up too much as far as his current situation is, but as of Week 1, again, Week 4 return and maybe cautious and stretch it to 6 or 7. Next up is going to be David Njoku. Njoku injured his ankle. It's considered a high ankle sprain. He has missed a couple of games so far. High ankle sprains can be tricky with recoveries, especially receivers and receiving tight ends. I've seen them linger. I've seen them come back, not be 100%, and then they're out again for a couple weeks. So it's definitely something to monitor with Njoku. As of Week 1, though, however, he has been ruled out. Puka Nacua. What happened to Puka? Cruciate ligament injury. 5 to 7 weeks is the report. Expected return is going to be Week 6 at the earliest. That's the most positive. So Puka fans, go ahead and drop him to the IR for now until he's ready to come up and see who's followed up behind him that you can pick up. That is one thing I will have on my weeklies once I get caught up. I will have some options behind Puka on who you can look to and hopefully get those out in enough time for you to get your waiver wire stuff done. Next on our list is Jordan Addison. He was actually in an accident, if I'm not mistaken, in the preseason, so there was not doubt necessarily, but I don't think he was going to be 100% Week 1. Anyway, he injured his ankle. Week 4 return is anticipated as of now. Again, this is Week 1 information. I understand we're in the middle of Week 3, so take that for what it's worth. Keeping an eye on progress. We'll see if he can make it back for Week 3. But right now, Week 4 is the return date. Finally, Jordan Love. This one's going to hurt as we got Malik on deck, but I think if you'll know Week 3, you'll see they seem to be doing okay. Jordan Love with the knee injury. He's going to be out with an anticipated return date of Week 5. We'll see how that goes. It may be earlier depending on progress. Doesn't seem to be anything too important right now. It is a knee, so it is something to keep an eye on. However, it looks like they may have enough in the tank to keep them going for now. If that's the case, it may take a little bit longer than Week 5 for Jordan. So just monitor that. Pick up his backup if you get a chance. Week 1 news. Here we go. Let's kick this off. Caleb Williams, what the is going on? What a terrible O-line. Offense is not in sync. Miscommunication all over the field. How long before we stop babying players in the preseason? Look, I understand. He is a rookie. I get it. And rookies are going to have problems. But let's be real. He's not your average rookie. He's not your Bo Nix. He's not your Bryce Young. He's not just any rookie. He's Caleb Williams. He's supposed to be the guy, the generational talent, the Mahomes-esque. I get it. Peyton Manning struggled. Understandable. He was a first-round pick. This person, yes. A lot of people failed. But Peyton Manning was great. I don't know that he came with the same hype that Caleb Williams is coming into. So, please, for me, anyway, I look at these and I'm like, let's not wash it over and just say, well, he's a rookie. We have to hold him to some sort of higher bottom as a rookie than you would a Bo Nix or someone like that. So, Caleb, I hope we get this taken care of, because it didn't look great in your first game. I can premonition, I don't think it's going to look great in his second week either. But from what I'm seeing in week 3, he may have finally put it together. However, don't panic. I know they've got some injuries now with Keenan Allen, so we'll see how that goes. Either way, Caleb, I don't know. I'm not impressed. I didn't really see anything. I saw a game that was too fast. It'll come to him. I just wish it was coming to him a little faster. You know, he's had time. He's got a higher floor than any other rookie that from what I can tell, that came out in the draft. His floor should be higher. There shouldn't be anyone playing better than him, and they have so many weapons on Chicago. So, moving on. Hopefully Caleb gets his stuff together. We will see. Next up, the New England Patriots. Have they found the formula to move the ball? I've been saying it since last year, because I have Ramondre Stevenson on my team. Run the ball. I get it. They're going to stack the box, pass it to Jalen Polk, pass it to Hunter Henry, open up the playbook, do a little play action. You got Jacoby Brissett back there. He can run play action. You know, get this done. They did it. Week 1. Start to build off of what's working. Ramondre had a monster game. You guys got the win. First win for Coach Mayo. Keep it going. Week 2, feed Ramondre, open up the play action. Brissett's got some wheels. Play smart defense, and keep this going. Patriot Nation. Next, we got Sam Darnold on the Vikings. Okay, so another guy that was on the Jets. Now, I'm not saying I'm expecting huge things for Zach Wilson, far from it. But it seems like the Jets just have problems developing quarterbacks. So this is another Jet retread where with the Jets he failed miserably. And he's playing like a winner in Minnesota. I mean, they don't need Patrick Mahomes over there to get to the playoffs. They got a solid team. They got a good defense. Wasn't fond of the Danielle Hunter trade. I love Danielle Hunter. I can't believe they got rid of him. But for better or for worse, they're playing like the Vikings with Kirk Cousins. So let's see how it goes. I know Sam Darnold's Colin's favorite QB, so I love Colin. Love listening to him. So for Colin, let's hope Sam Darnold continues to put up. But I don't know if this is so much a thing with Sam Darnold being on the Vikings, or is this something to do with the Jets just being, I don't know, not good at developing quarterbacks? Anyways, moving on, we got the Broncos woes. What in God's name is going on with Bo's dink and dunk? Where's the run game? Too many passes. This isn't Drew Brees. You cannot throw that many times, and they were dink and dunks. I think his average was maybe 5-6 yards a pass. It may have been less than that, because if I'm understanding it correctly, he broke a record for the most passing attempts with less than 150 yards, I believe it was. That's kind of off the top of my head. Way too many passes. You don't have Drew Brees. You don't have that type of offense that's going to open it up so that Bo Nix can throw, for 350 yards a game. That's not who this offensive identity is right now. And I don't know what they were thinking, but two things. One, I got Courtland Sutton on my team. Can we just throw a couple of fucking balls deep and try to hit the man? He's an amazing catcher. Look up Courtland Sutton catch highlights. The man has some crazy catches that he can make. He can make the contested throw, catch. He can make the the covered catch. Back of the end zone, tiptoe, whatever you need, just get the ball to the man, for the love of God and for the sake of the sanity of the Denver Broncos. Anyways, we'll see what happens. Bo Nix, keep it real, and we'll see what happens. Bo Nix, start passing the ball a little bit more downfield. Sean Payton, take the gloves off, open the playbook. I get it's vanilla, I get he's new, but man, you gotta do something, because that was god awful. For my final segment, I would like to talk about the 2023 player spotlights for the 2023 season. These are the guys that I wanted to get out there before the draft started for the 2024 season. I did not get enough time to get these done or out. It took quite a bit of time to actually put everything together. However, with that said, let's move on while we celebrate the 2023 top players in Dynasty. First up, we are going to discuss Terrell Bernard. While older has some leverage for historical reference, Terrell Bernard has one season, and what a season it was. Technically, Terrell played in 2022, but only started one game. Maybe that didn't sit well with the 25-year-old, as his 2023 campaign was a statement. Amassing over 140 combined tackles to go with 6.5 sacks and 3 interceptions, Terrell played the proverbial hold my beer when he was tasked with starting in his second year. Assuming the Nard Dog doesn't look back, Terrell is a scary addition to any defense, as evident by his top 10 fantasy points at his position in 2023. A four-time first-team All-Pro, 6-time Pro Bowler, and tied with Michael Strahan for the most sacks in a single season with 22.5. Trent Jordan Watt, aka TJ, has been the cream of the crop at linebacker since 2018, when he recorded his first of 5 double-digit sack seasons with the Steelers. With nearly 100 total sacks in only 7 years, it's easy to see why TJ can come off the board at number 1 for all defensive positions. When you make a case for a very small handful of players to be drafted at the top, TJ is always in that group and not just in conversation. He's one of the few players, even at the age of 29, who managers will prioritize on the draft boards. Do not sleep on this pick if he's in your wheelhouse. The only thing worse than having a chance to grab TJ and not doing it is having to play against TJ during the season. He's good enough to ensure the opponent's lead is never safe, and your team is never out if he's still on deck. Draft him, draft him, draft him. Our final player for today, I only did 3, but our final player defensively is a typical right time, right place, and all the trust in the world. Zaire Franklin, in his first 4 years, had a total of 94 combined tackles. 94. In 2022 alone, he had 176 combined tackles. Just to prove it wasn't a fluke, he followed that up with 179 combined tackles in 2023. So what changed? 2 things from my perspective. One, the loss of Shaquille Leonard. Leonard was Zaire until he hurt his neck a few years back and never looked the same. They did try to get him back during a couple of seasons. He would come back for a few games and he'd be out. Just never really took off like he was the first few years that he was around, when he was putting up easily over 100 combined tackles. I believe he may have led or was close to leading the league at 1 year. Talking about Shaquille Leonard. Well, around that time, Zaire took a much more productive role to replace Leonard, or at least to fill in for Leonard while he was out. So when you combine that with the defensive coordinator stating that they are funneling offenses to Zaire, you got a recipe for a Hall of Fame or a disaster, and we know what Zaire thought, as evidenced by his insane tackling production the last 2 years. This concludes the Fish Tank and your host, Fish. Thank you for joining me. Again, I truly apologize for this being a little late coming out, but I've been working really hard at trying to get these things to look nice. I think everything will look similar to this. I will have a lot more content, a lot more opinion, a lot more information that's going to be more relevant, obviously, to the current week of football, so that you'll be able to actually listen to my podcast, take notes, and hopefully make your team better. Thank you again for watching the show, and I look forward to seeing you on the next podcast.